Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Cordant and today I will be making an early access review for Rogue Trader Void Shadows. This is the new DLC and the first DLC for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, and at the time this video is being published, it should actually coincide with the public release date. So, as a full disclaimer, I received this early access version from Owlcat Games, so thank you Owlcat Games for this, for the purposes of trying out the DLC, experimenting, and do videos such as this one, like a review. I am mentioning this also because this copy was received for free, and I want to let you all know that the fact that I am receiving this for free in no way affects my review of the DLC. I want to make this abundantly clear. In this review, we're going to discuss what the DLC brings to the table, so new stuff, the good stuff, and potentially negative stuff as well. And I will also give my opinion if I think that this is something worth getting. For the viewers who just want to know my overall opinion, I will just say that yes, I find this to be a very worthwhile DLC to get. I think it has a lot of very cool additions. And if you want to understand why this is my opinion, stick around, I'm going to go through that during the course of the video. I will just leave an extra note here saying that I did play Rogue Trader before, I love the game, I have a full playthrough on Unfair in the channel as well. In case you want to check it out, I'm going to leave a video link over here at the top. So, before we begin, we're right here in the new game screen. We have like the typical main story one, and then you also have the Void Shadows here, which you can actually turn off and on, which I think is actually kind of interesting. And if you haven't seen the trailer yet, or the teaser, we can see it right now. It's only like 45 seconds. So let's take a look at this.
A void ship is the living embodiment of a rogue trader's power. Filled with mysteries, unexpected allies, and true horrors.
And there you go. Just a short little teaser. You see a couple of new areas there. You see a big focus on the new companion. You even see some new enemies. So, let me just say as well that there is a lot of new content to this DLC, and I have not been able to explore it fully. I have played the game from the start until I believe close to the start of Act 3, which I think is a fair amount of content in my opinion, so we get to see a lot of the new things. And I'm going to be basing my review on that. I did not have enough time to play the entire game, exploring the new stuff, so I'm going to be basing it on this. With that, my friends, let's get into it. We're gonna start right here in the difficulty screen. So we have some new stuff here, which I think is very exciting. And the first thing to mention is we now have this Grim Darkness mode. Now, Grim Darkness is essentially hardcore mode, or Iron Man mode, or Last Aslanti mode. In this game, they call it Grim Darkness. What this means is you essentially have a single life. If your party dies, the game is over, and your save game gets deleted. So it's interesting to explore. You know, it's something new to play with and aim for as a potential new challenge, and also some new achievements for those of you who like to hunt achievements. Something I think is kind of interesting here on Grim Darkness, I'm just going to read the description over here. Let me see. So it says, all decisions, victories and losses in the Grim Darkness mode are final and irreversible. You only have a single save, which is updated automatically every time you exit the game. No loading from an earlier point, no second chances, and no changing previous decisions. If you manage to successfully overcome all obstacles and make it all the way to the epilogue, bringing glory to the Von Valencia dynasty, you will receive the There Is Only War achievement and a special item for all your future playthroughs as a testament to your skill and bravery. Quite cool. If your party or your void ship is defeated in battle, your Grim Darkness journey ends there. You will be offered to either honorably accept your fate and delete the save, or continue the game in custom mode. This is a big change from the previous Pathfinder games, and I think it's a very welcomed one. However, completing this story will not grant you that there is only war achievement and the special reward, the Emperor Protects. It is possible to turn off the Grim Darkness mode at any time, converting it to custom mode, so this custom difficulty here. Once this is done, it cannot be reversed. As soon as you change the mode, you will no longer qualify for the achievement or the reward. It is only available in single player mode, not with extra people. So, again, it's basically just an Iron Man mode. The main change, I think, here from the previous games and from other hardcore modes is the fact that if you do die, instead of simply deleting the save, you get the chance to continue playing. So they say it here, right? Yeah. So you can accept your fate and delete the save, or continue the game in custom mode. What this means is, this is a long game, okay? If you've played the game before, it is a long game. And at times, you might not have enough time to just continuously restart your game. Or it may be frustrating that you have, like, placed 50 or 80 hours in your current playthrough, and then you die to something random, and all of that time just goes away. Some people don't mind it too much, other people might. So the fact that the game allows you to continue playing, in case you just want to see the story through, or you want to continue playing around and testing your build with that playthrough, you can do it instead of just losing your entire progress, which I think is a good thing. It will also tell you that manual saves will be unavailable in this mode. You can only save if you exit the game, and if your party or void ship, yes, this is an important one, one I don't like a lot, is defeated in battle, your Grim Darkness journey will end. Manual saves will be unavailable in this mode, and the death of the player character or the defeat of the void ship will lead to the end of the game. So, something that needs to be said about this. The first time I saw this, I was like, okay, cool. I like playing with this type of challenge in these types of games. I have done it in pretty much every, or at least most, of my playthroughs in the channel. It's something I enjoy a lot. And the first thing I thought about this was, okay, I want to try out a new playthrough on Unfair with Grim Darkness enabled. And I say this because my first playthrough was on Unfair, and even while playing the game blind, on Unfair, without even being too accustomed to Rogue Trader, I was able to beat it and we didn't die a single time. Now, I have to mention that during the time, or some time has passed since I finished my playthrough, and some changes have been made to the game. A lot of patches have been made. Even this DLC has been added. So, the patches also brought in some new balance changes, which may make things more interesting, right? So, I do want to try this combination out. Now, the main problem I have with this, and I think will lead to a lot of frustration on this mode, both for myself and other people also, is that, unlike with other Owlcat games, you cannot change your space combat difficulty here to something else, like for example easy, because this will change your difficulty back to custom. So if you are playing Pathfinder Kingmaker and you don't like Kingdom Management, you can even turn it into automatic mode, or you can put it in effortless difficulty. If you are playing Wrath of the Righteous and you don't like the Crusade, you can also just leave it to automatic and also on easy difficulty. Those changes do not affect your overall chosen difficulty. On Rogue Trader, for whatever reason, they decided to go with both of them being tied together. I don't like this because, you know, I would like to go for this combination of challenge, but personally I do not enjoy space combat. I never did, and I also find that space combat a lot of the times can be very random, and you can even die before you have a chance to act. It's happened to me in the past and it sucks. So if I'm playing on Grim Darkness and the playthrough is going well and I die after 50 hours because of a random space combat fight that I just randomly died in, I don't like it. I exposed my feedback on this, or I shared my feedback on this with Owlcat, and they just said that this is by design. So, you know, it is what it is. We're gonna go with it. The second thing I want to show here, which is also very cool, we're gonna see here on the character creation screen, is the archetypes. This new DLC is gonna bring in 2 additional archetypes. You have Blade Dancer that you can pick right at level 1, and then you also have Executioner. So Blade Dancer anybody can pick at level 1. Executioner you can take if you are playing as a warrior, not as an officer. You can take as an operative as well, not as a soldier. And finally, the Blade Dancer can also take it. I aim to do a separate video going into some more detail about these 2 archetypes, like diving a little bit deeper into what they do, how they work, and potentially even giving like an example build that I would suggest for somebody playing with these archetypes. For the purposes of this video, to not waste a lot of time there, I am simply going to give somewhat of an overview of these archetypes. So the Blade Dancer. Blade Dancers are swift and deadly masters of the sword, specializing in delivering flurries of rapid strikes, able to sacrifice a part of their health to enhance their close combat capabilities. Blade Dancers prefer to avoid enemy attacks, either by parrying, dodging, or quickly repositioning before enemy counterattacks. They even have the ability to parry range attacks. Very cool. The core focus is in melee, swords, movement, dodge, and parry. So yeah, again, I'm not gonna go into all of these details here, but what I can tell you is the new companion in this game is a Blade Dancer. So if you want to try out this archetype without making a new main character for it, you do have a companion made for this. And what I can say about the playstyle of this archetype from my experience in the game, trying it out, is I find it to be a very fun type of archetype. It's an archetype that is mostly melee. You want to be using swords. A lot of what you can do will only work if you are using either a two-handed sword or one-handed swords, even if you are dual wielding. And it is, I guess I could say, it is a little bit more of an advanced archetype in my opinion. Not because it's much harder to understand than the other ones, but because it plays with something that the other ones don't. So it says right here, so you are able to sacrifice a part of your health to enhance your close combat capabilities. It's an archetype that some of your abilities will actually cost wounds. You need to lose HP in order to use those abilities. And I know that for a lot of people, this might seem a little bit more difficult, right? Nobody wants to lose HP from the start. And like I said, this is mostly and mainly a melee character. You want to be in the middle of fights. You want to be in the middle of groups of enemies. You want to be close up to a powerful enemy. So you are in melee. It's also an archetype that doesn't really focus that much in being very tanky. And I say tanky in the form of having like a lot of deflection or using heavy armor. It's not that type of character. It's not like a warrior vanguard type of build. It's more of an agile type of build. So that's why they're saying here you focus on parrying and dodging. Like you prefer avoiding rather than tanking. So if you have somebody that's melee, that wants to be in the middle of melee combat, and their tanking capabilities are not gonna be that great, and you have to lose HP to use your abilities, it can take a little bit of getting used to. I can tell you, I think it's a fun design, I think it works well, because you can also kind of counterbalance that by using some other things. You even have certain abilities that if you make them work, you get health back. So I think it's a fun dynamic, it's very different from everything else. I enjoy it quite a bit. It also has a lot of attacks that you can do per round, which can be very powerful. And this can be done by various means. And you even have an inherent movement ability. So you have mobility from the start. So I'm mainly talking about Blade Dance here and Death from Above. This will give you more attacks, this will give you more attacks, and also mobility. It's a very fun archetype to play around, I think, in my opinion. It would even be something that I would say that even if you didn't care about the new bits of story or the new quests, I think just for the archetypes, I think it would be worth getting this DLC, honestly. And I did this, for example, in Wrath of the Righteous. I don't particularly like the added campaigns from the DLCs, but I do enjoy the new things they bring, like the new subclasses, new spells, stuff like that. So the same thing applies here, I think. The Executioner, though, let's talk about this one. The Executioner is a specialist in inflicting enduring and excruciating pain on all enemies around them, exploiting it to quickly eradicate their adversaries. Why is this orange? This should... yeah, this is wrong. This shouldn't be here, but okay. The core focus is in damage over time effects, awesome, melee damage, negative effects, crowd control, and large number of wounds. So the main thing that I want to mention about this archetype that I actually like very, very much is that it does focus on damage over time effects. I like this a lot because I feel that the existing archetypes up to this point, before DLC, you didn't really have, in my opinion, that much value or that much of a payoff in using damage over time effects. And I say this because, for the most part, you can deal so much damage up front, like direct damage, that it was not worth using damage over time. For the most part, I could apply damage over time on an enemy, but they would die before that would even tick once. Because I would either straight up kill them, or my companions would kill them before they could take damage over time. So I didn't find it to be a particularly useful thing to have. With Executioner, though, this changes a lot. Because what Executioner gives you as kind of like a baseline effect is, just by attacking your enemies, you are going to apply damage over time effects. And if the enemy already has a damage over time effect on them, if you hit them, they immediately take an instance of that damage over time effect. So for example, let's say that you set somebody on fire and they're burning, and the burning damage per turn is 10. If you hit them, they will take your weapon damage or your spell damage plus 10 damage from burning for every single attack you do, which is very, very good. And then you even have something here, this one over here, where it hurts. Again, I'm not going to waste too much time reading the details, but what this can do is it allows you to consume all of the damage over time effects on that enemy and immediately deal 3 instances of damage of every single effect on them. So if they have burning, if they have warped burning, if they have bleeding or toxin, they are gonna take 3 times the amount of damage they would expect from that damage over time effect for each of those effects. This generates an incredible amount of burst damage.
Emperor's judgment.
And it's also a very cool way to work with damage over time. Like I said, a lot of the times you don't even see a tick go off because you kill them outright, or the damage just isn't enough. This way you can turn damage over time effects that linger for a long time into just a rapid burst, killing people left and right. So very, very cool archetype. I am liking it very, very much. You can do a lot with it. It's also very versatile and also very different from anything else that existed up to this point. So, this is what I wanted to mention about the difficulty and the archetypes. We are now going to move into what you are getting in the actual game as additions. And we are magically back, my friends. We are right now in our Void Ship Bridge. And this is a save that's gonna be at level 29, as we can see right here. It should be close to the start of Act 3. I'm not sure exactly how close I am, but I think I'm close enough. And I think the first thing I want to mention from the new stuff you get from this DLC, I'm going to start with one of the ones that is mostly talked about, which is your new companion, Kibala. So, I will say that I have done a good portion of her quests, her new stuff, but I have been actively, intentionally ignoring the dialogues. I want to reserve the new story of the quests, her background story, for an actual playthrough where I go through everything. I am mostly focusing on the gameplay aspects of it. But yeah, you get Kibala, and if you look over here, she starts as I had mentioned, as a blade dancer. So if you want to play around with the blade dancer archetype, she is a good chance to do it. And she also has her own unique origin in the Death Cult Assassin. This is also going to be a big part of this new DLC. That's going to bring you a lot of new quests, a lot of new areas to explore, new factions, new NPCs. So, a lot to be said about this Death Cult Assassin origin. And let's talk about what she will bring into the game. So, as I've mentioned, she is a deep story companion. She has a lot of story. She even has a lot of different cinematic cutscenes to her, which is minor, but in case you like those things, you have it. She is romanceable, so if you wanted one more person to romance, you can do it here. She brings, as I said, a lot of new quests. She brings several new boss fights, very unique and interesting boss fights. Some of them I think are kind of a little bull feces, but okay, but they're interesting, let's call it that. And they are fun. You have entire new large areas. Some of them are also devoted to this character background or even this character story. You have the romance, as I mentioned, and it's also a perfect opportunity to explore the new archetypes as they are kind of tailor-made for her. So Blade Dancer works very well for her, and you know, it's the only thing you have with her, so you have to pick it. And then I think Executioner is also a very decent second archetype for the Blade Dancer. You don't have to go for it, you can go for other ones, but I do think this one works out quite well for her. Other things you get. You get new NPCs in your ship that you did not have before, such as this guy over here. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything over here. And you have this lady, Jocasta Sourback, as well. These are NPCs that will be unique. They will have their own unique dialogue. They have their unique story, their unique roles in the ship and in your dynasty. They also have quests and will interact with previously existing quests. So they do bring a lot of new stuff as well, and you also have some role-playing associated to them, which is, you know, a welcome addition. You have new areas to your ship. So before, you pretty much only had the Void Ship Bridge, and other than the bridge, you had some areas you could explore if you were, like, for example, ambushed, just traveling throughout the universe, and you would fight in certain small chambers. And you also had the Lord Captain's quarters. That remains the same thing. But now, you have entire new compartments. You have the Lord Captain's quarters, you have the freight line, which is a very large area with trains, which I found to be very cool. You have the Void Ship Shrine, you have the Astropathic Chapel, and then you even have some more that are currently grayed out, which you also get to explore in several quests.
It's about time.
And I think even in the Lord Captain's quarters, I think you also have some new options also. And I think for the most part, they are mostly role-playing based. Where is it? Ah, here. So you can now take a bath. You can perform your ablutions. And you can even invite people into your bath and do some weird stuff. And I think it's cool for role-playing reasons, and you also have some quest stuff happening in this region, as you may have seen in the teaser for the DLC. Let me just go back over here. So yeah, you get to explore the Void Ship further with some new areas, which I think is kind of fun. You also have new items and weapons, and not just for the new archetypes, you have new items and weapons for all kinds of archetypes. So, just as a very brief example here, I am using a chainsaw, which you didn't have before, which is a cool item. It's kind of unique also. Doesn't do a lot of damage, as you can see here, but each attack you do performs several strikes. So, if the first strike hits, all subsequent strikes automatically hit. If it's dodged or parried, all of them are dodged or parried. So in this case, it strikes 3 times. So, if we go a little bit back to what I said about the archetypes, like the Executioner, and again, I don't want to waste a lot of time on this, but I mentioned that if you hit an enemy, when you hit them, you will apply stacks of damage over time, and you will also cause those damage over time effects to trigger. So, the chainsaw hitting multiple times is a fun addition to it as well. I also saw some new staffs for Psykers, I saw new ranged weapons, I saw new protection items as well. So, a lot of new stuff to play around with as well. So I appreciate that also. And I also like that it's not just for the new archetypes, it works for most characters in the game. And finally, from what I saw as well, you also have more ship combat stuff. So, I'm calling it stuff because I don't know what to call it. But this is mostly relevant if you enjoy ship battles. If you like the ship battles, you are gonna have more of them. You are gonna have new stuff during the ship battles, which can kind of change the dynamic of those battles. And you even have new types of battles. Not only that, even your ship can have new abilities. So, for example, something you saw... Let me show an example here of something that I think is gonna bring... that's gonna give us an example of a lot of new things here. Come on. Thank you.
Hold fast. Our faith will be tested.
Okay, so immediately we can see there are some new things available in the game. So now you can even assault certain fortresses that have like turrets, and you have like a shield generator and the control tower, while also fighting enemy ships. So a lot of dangerous areas and difficult areas. I cannot beat this fight, at least not yet. But again, I don't really enjoy a lot of the ship combat, so for me these additions might actually be a negative, because the more I see of these fights, the less I enjoy playing the game. But, you know, for people who do like them, you have more content on that regard, so that's a cool thing. You may also notice you have these things here. Like, you have an explosive void nebula, you have a gas and dust cloud, you have an accumulation of charged particles, you have the same thing here, and you also have an asteroid field. So you now have these areas where if you stand inside them, you may get certain buffs, as you can see right here on this one, for example. You get some more evasion, but you may lose speed, hit chance, etc, etc. So there's trade-offs, obviously. And it will also apply to enemy ships. So it brings some new dynamics into the fights. It's not just shooting the enemies. You can play around with these if you want. Again, we have this new mode. I'm not sure if this is only for a specific quest that I had, or if more of these are gonna show up. And you also have some new stuff to play around with, which I don't think existed in the main game. You have the Fury Interceptors. So you have seen, if you've played the game before, enemies using this, where they would launch like tiny friends to help them out. Now you can also do the same thing. So as a brief example here, we can just play with them so we can see them work out. You also have some new weapons, I feel. Die. We can do this. We can do that. Why am I trying to win this fight? I don't know. But whatever. Let's pass. And now we can play with them. As soon as we pass, we get to play with them. We don't have to wait for the enemies. And you move a little bit. And just like the enemies, we can shoot. And they deal decent damage, actually. So this is also a fun addition. And you can even spawn, I think, at least 2 from the equipment that I currently have. You might find others that will give you more to play with at a single time. So I think it's also a fun thing to explore. Okay, so we are back on the ship, and I will just make some closing remarks here. I think from what I have played, I have shared the most relevant things that I have found thus far in the game, and I'm only talking about, you know, gameplay aspects. I don't want to spoil for you guys story, quests, dialogue, stuff like that. So I won't go into details there. I will just say that I have seen up to this point quite a lot of new quests, a lot of new areas, large areas with a lot of stuff to do. And for the most part, I have enjoyed them all. They typically will also have, I think I faced, I don't know, like 3 bosses? 3 additional bosses up to this point from the additional quests, which I enjoyed quite a bit. So I think, in that regard, I think it's also very well done, but I will not spoil it. So, as a brief summary, my friends, let me check out my notes here. As a brief summary, do I consider this DLC worthwhile getting? Yes, yes I do. I think the main selling points for someone like me are going to be primarily the new archetypes. If there is something I enjoy playing in these games, is trying out new builds, you know, building the character, experimenting with different archetypes, see how the party synergy works with this different archetype, play around with the new stuff. And I do think that these 2 new archetypes are very fun and very unique, so they bring something quite new and fresh into the game. I like them a lot. So I even am playing with Qibla, using the Blade Dancer together with Executioner, and even my main character, I want to try out the Executioner. And I went for a Warrior Psyker, mainly focusing on pyromancy, and it works very well with this, I will tell you right now. I am liking it a lot. There are times when I'm basically one-shotting powerful enemies, and I would not expect to do that incredible amount of damage, but it works out very well, it's very fun, very unique. So I appreciate the archetypes a lot, and I think just these two by themselves would be a reason to explore or to buy this DLC. We get the new companion, which I also enjoy, because I think her backstory is very interesting. I think her personality, from the little bits that I had to read, I think is also quite unique and fun. I like that it's romanceable. The additions to the game, be it in the new unique NPCs in the ship, I like them as well. It's always welcomed. The new areas, getting to explore the ship further with the different areas that I showed over here with the additional compartments, I think is very cool. You also have some unique NPCs in those areas as well, not only the ones on the ship. I actually forgot to mention that. We get a lot of new items, a lot of new weapons, which is also fun to play around with. So even if you just want to play around with the old, previously existing archetypes, you can do it, but you get some new toys to play with. We get Grim Darkness mode, if you like playing around with in Iron Man and look forward to that achievement and also getting that new item for future playthroughs. I think it's a fun thing to have. I will definitely try to get that. And finally, like I said, if you are someone who is into the ship battles in Rogue Trader, I think they really revamped that quite a bit. So previously, mostly you had a fight with, you know, different kinds of enemies. You had like Drukhari, you had Eldari, you had Necrons, you had all those kinds of different ships. But for the most part, they were a bit bland. You know, you move forward, you shoot, you rinse and repeat. So now you have new abilities for your ship, new items for your ship. You have new mechanics during the ship map battles. You have new types of battles like I showed with that fortress. So if you do enjoy that, that can also be a benefit for you. If you don't like the ship battles, let me tell you right now, you are gonna have more of them. Which, to me at least, it's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So, this is my early access review for this DLC. I am enjoying it quite a bit. Like I said, I haven't finished the game, and I think at this point I will not finish it by the time that this video comes out. I don't have the time for it. But once the final release is done, I am planning on making a full playthrough eventually, where I want to explore further this Pyromancer character and play around with the new character as well and find out the new quests and areas that the DLC has to offer. I hope this video was useful, my friends. As always, I want to thank you all for being here with me on the channel watching this review. I hope it was helpful. If you have any more questions or suggestions, leave a comment below. I'll try to help out or give more information in any kind of aspect that I may not have covered and you are curious about. Leave a comment about that. If you enjoy this type of video, consider subscribing for more. It's a free and easy way to support the channel, and many more videos are also coming out soon. Also, look forward to, if you are interested, that other video where I go into some more detail over the Blade Dancer and the Executioner archetypes. With that, my friends, thank you so much. I hope to see you all in the next episode, and until then, stay safe, everyone.